Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for yet more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing a deck that I think is probably the most tempo oriented deck in the format, and that is the blue-black ninja deck. Now the reason I say this is because when this deck gets behind, it finds it very difficult to dig itself out of that hole, whereas like Delver decks, which were always traditionally a tempo deck, now have like a massive dragon and they have the Expressive Iteration, Mystic Sanctuary loops, so they kind of have a lot of mid to late game push. Whereas this deck, if it falls behind, it's kind of struggling because we're playing creatures which have quite poor stat lines, but we're trying to get the abilities out of them. So what does this deck do? This deck tries to play an Ornithopter or a Changeling Outcast on turn 1, which are obviously not particularly great creatures, but it means that they can attack. And when they're attacking on your second turn, what you want to do is put in one of your ninjas. So this one draws you a card. Well, it says whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage. So if you attack with multiple ninjas, you get multiple cards. And this one, which draws you a card off the top of your library, but your opponent loses life equal to the mana cost of it, which can sometimes be nice if you like spike a Force of Will or one of these 4-mana ninjas or a Snuff Out and so on. So it's pretty decent. And that's basically like the sort of A plan, I suppose. The B plan is Retrofitter's Foundry. I think this is actually the best use of Retrofitter's Foundry in any deck. I don't necessarily think it's the best Retrofitter's Foundry deck, but it's the best use of one because you have 8 Thopters in your deck here. And you need all of these to enable the ninjas. So you're playing these anyway, but you have these 1-mana cards that can upgrade them into 4/4s, as well as doing the regular Thopter Foundry of grinding value. So I think that's pretty cool. It might even be better plan a lot of the time. Like this is where you're going to get the big bodies from, whereas these are going to be things that sort of come in and draw you a card. A few things to round it out. We've obviously got counter spells in Daze and Force of Will. Only 3 Days is interesting to me, but I took this list from the 5/0 deck dump, so we're just going to roll with it. And Brazen Borrower, just to get some things out of the way, so you can keep attacking and getting your value. Snuff Out, Murderous Cut, Fatal Push. It's got lots of ways of removing creatures so that your little guys can keep connecting. And we're a blue deck, so we get to run Brainstorm and Ponder. Now, just by running Brainstorm and Ponder, it means that our deck is going to be alright a lot of the time because we've got a lot of ways of fixing our hands. The only issue is we need to be mulliganing relatively aggressively because if we fall behind, it's going to be hard to get back in. So we can have all these cantrips, but they're not going to take us anywhere. We're going to need to stick either one of the, so we're going to have one of these in our opening hand pretty much every time. And then we're going to have either Retrofitters or some sort of ninja. So it's almost like it's not a combo deck, but it's almost like that in terms of what you're trying to keep in your opening hand because you need certain components for your deck to really do anything. But there is also this Baleful Strix, which is just a reasonable card. It pitches to Force of Will as well as being able to block and trade with things. However, if you're attacking with this, they're probably not blocking it because it's got Death Touch and whatever they can block it with is probably better. So you get to attack with this and then put in your ninja and then replay your Baleful Strix, which then gets you the value, and you can kind of rinse repeat this process. You keep drawing ninjas. So that's basically the plan. So we're a 17 land deck with no wastelands. We have the ability to play through Blood Moons and wastelands on the opposing side relatively easily, so that's not going to be too much of an issue there. It's a pretty safe mana base, I would say. So let's have a look at the sideboard quickly. Hydroblast. Pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of good red things you need to hit, whether it be Dragon's Rage Channeler or Minsc and Boo. This will nail it while it's on the stack or while it's in play. Hercule's Recall, 8 casters a deck that we need to bounce all their stuff off, and there's quite a few artifact decks, things like Painter and things flying around. Force of Negation, if we need a 5th counter spell, we can get one in there, so it's going to be for some of the combo matchups more than anything else. Opposition Agent, we're going to be wanting this for things like Doomsday and Depths, things that search your deck. Is pretty self-explanatory. Plague Engineer, this is quite an important one here, I think, because if our opponent can make lots of 1/1s like Cyphops tokens or something like that, or something that can get in the way of our pretty mediocre men that need to connect to get the value, then the Plague Engineer can hopefully clear them out, as well as just being good in some creature matchups anyway. Graveyard Hate, we've got a 2-2 split of Surgical Extraction and Ley Line in the Void. I personally think you should just go for the 4 Ley Lines and be done with it, but I'm going to play the 5/0 list and see how we go. We also have Thoughtseize. If you need a little bit of different disruption, you can board this in and try and hit things. So it's basically for the combo decks where your creatures will always be good enough to win the game with enough time. So that's where the Thoughtseize comes in, I think. And then we have a Caracas here, which is just a nice little sort of catch-all for bouncing certain permanents. Mainly like reanimatory stuff, but it also has text in the 8-cast matchup. So you can keep the Sai off the board, so you're more likely to be able to connect with your little guys because you're not going to have loads of tokens in the way. And that's pretty much it for the deck. We also have the one back to basics, which is relatively self-explanatory as well, I think. You know, green, white depths, lands, things like that, where we can lock down their basics. So yeah, our game plan is just be tempoing people out. So we're just going to jump into a league, but before we do that, if you could just scroll down and hit that subscribe button, or if you've already subscribed, hit the like button or drop a comment. These are the things that help me out. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe or comment or like, so please go ahead and do that, and it really helps me out. All right, let's jump into the first round and see how we can go with the ninjas. So we won the die roll and we're on the play, which is where we want to be with this deck. But this hand is not really where we want to be. We're not going to be able to connect with anything here, so I think we should mulligan. This hand lets us get a Yuriko into play on turn 2, so I think we can keep this one. And it also has a retrofit, so we can upgrade our stuff. We will need another mana source for this to work, though. That is the only downside. But what we can do is we can play the Ornithopter and the retrofitters out. And that way we still have a backup plan of just making 4 power on turn 1 and sort of riding it. So this is a little bit of a dodgy one, but we have Brainstorms, we have Ponders, and we have the lands in our deck. So I'm going to keep this one. I think it's better than going to 5. And we'll put one of these Yurikos on the bottom. You got to believe in the heart of the cards, I believe. So play out an island, play out an Ornithopter, play out this Retrofitter's Foundry. So we can attack with a 4/4 this turn, or we can try and draw into a swamp. I think we probably just make the 4/4 and just get the damage going, but we'll see what our opponent does first. We might value our ability to have an Ornithopter, because if we use the Retrofitters for a 4/4 and we want to put the Yuriko in, we're not going to get a lot of joy out of that. Ancient Tomb from our opponent. A Chalice of the Void on 1. Interesting. Well, we're going to let that go. Means that our changing outcast is going to be a little bit troublesome. A Mox Opal from our opponent here. Which is, well, this is looking like 8 cast, but it could be anything. Okay, so there's the Emery. So removal is going to be less of an issue. They didn't have a lot of removal, especially main deck. So they didn't get any hits with their Emery, but they do still have the bauble that they can get value of each turn. Okay, so they're cracking the bauble now. They can get it back next turn with Emery to have Metalcraft. So now I have a choice of whether I turn this into a 4/4 or I hold out for drawing the swamp. I think the correct play is to just make a 4/4 here. Right, we need to get on board, we need to get damage in, and if we brick on draws, at least we're ahead here. We just get the same choice again next turn if we don't make that choice. Okay, so Ponder is very nice here. We can't cast it actually, so it's not very nice. Ignore me. So we are on the trying to draw land plan here. This Ponder is going to rot away in our hand until we get a Force of Will to ship it off. So we got our 4 damage in and pass the turn. Now, if we can draw another land, we can start making some tokens with our Retrofitters and keep going. But at present, it's going to be a little bit awkward. So they're replaying the bauble like we thought they would. So they've just got this engine online now to draw an extra card every turn cycle. Yeah, so they play this and then they play the Thoughtcast that they were trying to cast, I think. There's the Thoughtcast. There's the Thought Monitor. So they've drawn 5 extra cards this turn cycle so far. Not really sure we're going to come back from this one. Crack the ball, tagging us. And then it's back to us. Not sure what we need to get out of this, but a land is going to be a start. They haven't got a Saga yet, so they haven't got any of the really big scary threats. Okay, so drawn a land, it's an island, which means we're going to be on the pumping out retrofit tokens here. So we attack with our 4/4. Take the damage like I thought they would. And now we keep going. Opponents played a Psy. This is one of the cards I mentioned earlier that would be a problem for this deck. Yep. So they've got an engine here that every turn cycle they gain 1 Thopter and a card just from tapping their Emery, which is a lot of card advantage. They are on 6 though, so we might be able to thread something through somewhere along the lines. But casting a Kappa Cannoneer, which gets them another token here. And I can't attack into the Kappa Cannoneer because it triggers itself and becomes a 5/5. So we can't attack. Yep, they're just casting a Chalice here for the purposes of making another token and pumping their Kappa Cannoneer. This on 0 isn't very good for them, but they're so far ahead that they can just do that as they see fit. So we'll make a 1/1 Thopter, a Servo, sorry. And like, we're not dead on board, but I don't think it's worth playing this game out for much longer. Like, we're going to get hit for 8, 9, 10 this turn. We only have one more draw step. I think we just concede and save time. So I mentioned a lot of things that were good against 8 cards. This bounces Psy and Emery. The Back to Basics is actually pretty nice here. The Plague Engineer on Thopter is good. Some of these other cards have text, but Hercule's Recall is the big one, I think. So I don't think we win the trying to Force of Will them game. I just don't think that's a fight we get to win against a deck that's drawing that many cards. I think our strategy is to invalidate the things they do play. So that's where these are going to come in handy, like the Plague Engineers, the Hercule's Recall and stuff, so we can bounce some things. Does seem a little unintuitive, boarding in Caracas and Back to Basics, but they're both of 1 of each, so I don't think that's wrong. The Fatal Push hits a decent amount of their things. These also hit decent amounts of their things. So we're really looking to try and find another 2 cards to cut here. We could be trimming a land for the Caracas, but I'm not sure if that's where I want to be necessarily, because this doesn't tap for either of the colours for these things. So I think this just has to be boarded in as a spell. I think the Brazen Borrowers are just worse versions of Hercule's Recall here. I think we're better off having these. Like, the Brazen Borrowers being 3/1s in the face of a deck that makes a lot of Thopters is also not ideal. So I think this is probably the best way of doing it. We don't have the Force of Wills now. But our opponent isn't trying to resolve like a big thing that beats us. They're just trying to constantly accrue value. And I just don't think that's worth trying to fight the Force of Will fight on that. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm going with. And we're going to submit. We're on the play. We can make Changing Outcast into Ingenious Infiltrator. That's what our deck's supposed to do, so I think we have to keep this. We can follow up with a Brainstorm as well. Our opponent didn't see an enormous amount of our deck last turn. They can probably work out as ninjas, but there might be a chance they think we're on some sort of other weird blue deck because they only saw islands. They saw Island, Ornithopter, and Retrofitters. Urza's Bauble. So they're going to be able to see a card in our hand and get a better idea what we're working with, unless they want to keep this for Metalcraft purposes. And play this out. Sacrifices now. And we're going to be getting basics this game because we have the Back to Basics boarded in that we want to hit with. Our third land could potentially be something else. Another bit of synergy with these 2 cards is that this is also a ninja. So once I attack with this bouncer, get this guy in, when I replay this, this will be able to draw me a card every turn. So the other option we have here is attacking with this and then just playing the Strix. This will give us a better creature to bounce, and it means that we get to draw 2 cards next turn because this will be hitting and this. So I think that might be better. So we're going to give this a go, like this, and just see if we can accrue a lot of cards and then maybe pick out specific pieces and dig into the things we need. Okay, Hercule's Recall is definitely one of the things we wanted to see, and our opponent did not see that with the Urza's Bauble either. They have seen the Fatal Push. So they know one of their little creatures could get killed, but I will need Revolt to trigger for this, so I'm going to need one of my permanents to leave the battlefield. Now it says leave the battlefield, so if I bounce one of my guys, that does turn it on. It's important to note. The Saga, the real big hit in their deck, to be honest. The Shadow Spear. Okay, so we're going to need to kill things that wear this. Okay, so I think we can play out the Vista here. Now we have an option of trying to brainstorm now to find a counterspell for Force of Will. Like a Daze or something, but they can pay through the days. I'm not sure how much we want. And we're going to be drawing the cards anyway off of this. So maybe we are just better off hitting with these guys this turn. We'll bounce back the Strix. This is not a line without issue because they can cast things like Dismember. So we'll attack with these guys. Just bounce this guy back and see if we can ninjutsu our opponent and get some cards. This is the Dismember we thought might happen. So we're going to crack this. Get an island. And try and brainstorm into a Daze or something. Okay, so we've got a Force of Will on that brainstorm, so that's not too bad. This guy dying is a bit unfortunate for us. We don't really have much way of recouping card advantage. We do have the Baleful Strix that we can sort of go again with. But this can kill either Saga tokens, which is important. But I think the real plan here is to bounce them all. So there's a Fatal Push that they know we have. There's a Saga. Yep. So they're going to be making a lot of guys. So we need to choose our spot with this Hercule's Recall. Our Fatal Push does kill them all, which is nice, but not ideal. So I think we'll play this one out first. This gives us the ability to change our Changing Outcast into something else. This might get a kill spell on the Changing Outcast while this is on the stack. This guy can't be blocked, so he's definitely coming in. So I have two choices there. I can hold up like the Fatal Push or the Hercule's Recall, but I think the best play here is to Baleful Strix because I think they're just going to make more tokens rather than putting the Shadow Spear on. So the idea here is that we can... so we have the land here as well. So the idea here is that we can let them spend all their turns making these Urza Saga tokens because we're just going to bounce them all in one spot because they're probably not going to attack into the Baleful Strix, at least not without a Shadow Spear, and they're probably just going to make more Saga tokens first. So I think we're okay here. In an emergency, we do have the Snuff Out, which hits non-black creatures. So it can hit artifacts. I suspect this is just getting a bauble. Okay, a Pithing Needle. This is going to name our Retrofit's Foundry here. Which is fine because we're going to Hercule's Recall soon. I think I would rather have this as a 1-1 right now because we're more likely to get our opponent to commit more things. Dismember on our little guy. Okay. So this turn they crash us for 5. But next turn we can hold up Hercule's Recall. The problem now is that I can hold up Hercule's Recall and try and burn off 3 construct tokens. But the issue with that is that we don't really have anything that we're doing to win the game. Okay, that's a good start. Let's attack with this one. So we get Yuriko in. And that should deal them damage. Only 1 damage. Oh, 0 damage. I see. Not one of the big hits I wanted. So I'm going to play this one out. And we can't play around something like Flusterstorm if they're running it anyway. So I think we just crack our fetches here. We'll have to get an island. I was supposed to get a swamp for that one, wasn't I? Because no, I should still have another swamp in there, right? Yeah, so this one can go and get us a swamp. Yeah. And then we can play out the outcast. And then we say go, and if they make a load of tokens and stuff, we get to bounce them all. Which should hopefully be quite nice. So I have to assume this is going to be a bauble. So they've got 2 of the... Okay, so it's a Mox Opal. Another as a saga. Triple as a saga game. Sure. It'll be a little bit trickier to beat through, but we can still do this. Okay, so they have 1 card in hand, and it doesn't matter if it's Force of Will or not. So we get to bounce all their guys here. Yeah, so they will probably play the Pithing Needle here, and in response we will turn this into a 4/4. So we need a 2-drop on top of our deck for when Yuriko connects. So a Brainstorm would be nice. I think this still has to go on Retrofitter's Foundry here. Yes, there you go. So Brainstorm would let us set that up. A Polluted Delta. That was not the one. It does mean that we can make some stuff. So give us enough to untap as well as make 2 activations of this. So let's just see if Yuriko hits a 2-drop for us. Oh, 1-drop. Oh. So we can't activate this obviously because of the Pithing Needle. So we are holding this for... Actually, no, we don't need to hold this for Brainstorm because we already have loads of things to put back Brainstorm. We just want to be able to hard cast the things that we want to cast. So we can kill... We have 2 different ways of killing an Urza Saga token in hand right now. And our opponent is on 1 life. Interesting why they activated that in response to the trigger. Psy the dude. Sure. So they have a Mox Opal that we know about, so I think we immediately cast this. Targeting this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4. This way they only have 1 token, hopefully. And they can't force of will anything because they're on 1 life. Sure. That worked out quite well. On the play, should we be doing anything differently? Should we be trying to run counter spells for some of their bits and pieces, or with the daisies potentially be better with Brazen Borrowers? And the Force of Negation is something that we can actually cast. Maybe that's slightly better, or we can board in the Opposition Agent to mess up the Sagas. It's also a flash threat. I don't hate that. I don't think it's great for this, but I think it'll do for what we're doing on the draw here. This is obviously not keep because we have no lands. I think we keep this one. We have a Brainstorm to hopefully fix things. We're pretty cold to Chalice, but that is sometimes the nature of the beast. So I think we're probably ditching the C here. So the highest upside we can have is make these 2 on 1, turn to make the guy that draws cards for each ninja, and then bounce the Ornithopter and get 2 draws in. That's more or less the level we're working with. Okay, Saga Petal from our opponent, 2nd Petal, and a Bauble, and a random card. They're going to go next turn. Let's see what we have. Okay, so we've drawn the play that I just laid out, which is nice. So we will get the swamp. Cast this guy. Cast this guy. Okay, they are F6, so I do not believe our opponent has a Force of Will in their hand at this moment in time. I think we might be able to connect and get 2 cards this turn. Ancient Tomb, which is probably the best draw they had there, or the best follow-up land. They probably had it in hand, and that's why they let out on the Saga in the first place. Play this one out. Go get Island. They do know this is coming because they saw it with the bauble. Okay, this looks like a dismember of some description. Yeah, okay. That's unfortunate for us. We're not really going anywhere at this point now. We need to brainstorm into something good. We don't really have like top end threats that we can play out and get back into the game with necessarily, so could be tricky. Like we have a removal spell for this in the Fatal Push. And our opponent is down on cards at least. So we get to brainstorm with a fetch land next turn, so hopefully we can fix up what's going here. Yeah, so they're fetching something here. I imagine it's probably going to be either Shadow Spear or the Pithing Needle on Retrofitter's Foundry. Okay, the Shadow Spear, that's the more aggressive line. I think that's the correct line here. Now this is awkward for us because they get a whole turn of attacking with this Trampler guy. This big lifelink guy. So that's going to undo all the damage that they've been dealt so far, basically. Mostly from their own Ancient Tombs because the creatures in my deck are bad. Alright. It's got to be a good turn. Play this out. Let's have a good brainstorm. We need a lot of help here. I think 2 Ornithopters is going to cut it. Okay, so this gives us a Snuff Out and the Yuriko this turn, if we want it. Sure. So I think we go and get ourselves an island. So the plan is have the Ornithopter back to block the other construct, and then we can snuff out the construct with a lifelink and hopefully start making some inroads. So this is an island. Go to attacks. We are going to take 4 for this snuff out though. Oh, Caracas. Okay. A very poor hit. Need to put some Emeralds in my deck, clearly. So we'll play out this 0-2. And then we've got the snuff out for the construct token. Our opponent has 2 cards in hand. If one of them is Force of Will, then we are basically dead. So, okay. We can't take the 6 here, so we have to block. A Ponder. I think we want to lead out with a Ponder. We might just put something big and scary on top. Brazen Borrower is quite a good one here. As is the Plague Engineer. So I think we go Ponder, because we'll be drawing that next turn anyway. Plague Engineer, and Borrow on top. Not sure of the library. We'll take the Borrow in hand. We'll play out this Caracas. And we'll attack. And this will hit them for 4 damage in total. And draw me a card. And then on our main phase, we have on their turn, we have Brazen Borrower and Fatal Push as options. I think it's just better to do that rather than hold anything else up. And we got a Ponder to set up the next Yuriko, hopefully. So we might be getting there. It's possible. Yikes, that's a big one. It's not really a good one to bounce either. Okay, Thought Monitor. I think we are incentivized to kill the construct before they draw cards. It's quite a heavy price for the old high cast Force of Will there. So I'm going to Petty Theft this guy now. Sure, so what do we... They get to do their Thought Monitor now. What I can do here is I can attack and Plague Engineer, so that they have to... Oh, okay. I'm just putting that on it straight away. Interesting. Okay. We're going to need this Ponder to find something good for us, I think. This game has somehow been quite close, considering we didn't have a great start. I think the multiple Ancient Tombs in our opponent's hand has really helped us out. Let's have a look. Ponder. We have a Snuff Out. That's a pretty big one. And that will leave us with 2 life. And what can we cast off of that? We can either cast the Strix, or we can cast Outcast and Retrofit as Foundry. So we have to put this into our hand to kill this on the attacks. So I think that means we're putting Foundry, Strix, Snuff Out on top, and we will not shuffle. If this doesn't work, then we probably lose the game. Our opponent has 3 cards in hand. They had a Force of Will. Yikes, I guess. We paid the life for that. That's the iron price. I think that was it. I think we're just dead here. Even if we could play this, they could trample over. This, I guess we can try and force them to make a mistake. Maybe that's fine. Let's see if this works. I could have tried this as a bait spell, but I don't know why they would bait spell this when they have a 3/3. This isn't worth a Force of Will on this board. Unfortunately, my creature is not unblockable. Thopter, please. Oh, this isn't a Thopter, is it? It's a construct. Oops. My mistake. I think we can concede there. Alright, so that was a little bit unfortunate at the end. They had to have Force of Will out of the cards that they drew at the end, and they had it, which sometimes happens. If they don't, I think we crash for 3 this turn to put them to 3, and then we have Yuriko plus Strix in play. Yuriko, Strix, and Retrofit as Foundry in play. I think that's probably going to win me the game from that point. But it was relatively tight margins, considering like it didn't feel like I was doing a lot for some of the game. Alright, let's on to round 2, please. So this opening hand requires my brainstorm to find a creature for my Ornithopter to do anything from. But it does give me a daze. It's a case of whether or not I think I'm going to hit off of the top 4, the top 3 cards of my deck. If I brainstorm and miss, that's probably the end of the game. I think we should just mulligan and be safe here. Yikes. Should have kept the brainstorm hand. Alright, we'll mulligan again. We make a 4/4 on turn 1. That's probably fine. So we want to keep the fetch down for the brainstorm, so we can probably bin off one of these. I think we want to keep both our Ornithopters, actually. So maybe we are just putting all these back and just making some 4/4s and hoping that's good. So I'm going to play out the Retrofits first, because this is relatively, you know, no one's going to counter that on turn 1. But when I play out an Ornithopter or 2, that's going to change things. Now I think I'm incentivized to hold this Ornithopter back in my hand, since it's not getting upgraded straight away anyway. So let's see what my opponent is doing. A Wasteland. And an Aethervial. Okay. Let's make a 4/4. Underground Sea. So we can brainstorm here, but I think we're okay. Kind of want another card before I brainstorm, just so I can get a little bit deeper, but maybe it's right to brainstorm. Let's try this. Interesting. This Fatal Push is going to be good for us. We don't want to play this Underground Sea out yet, though. So I think we're probably just making 4/4s here. So I think we just put these 2 back like this. And we will keep the Underground Sea in our back pocket. Because we don't want to get wastelanded. We want to be able to guarantee the black mana off of it. Alright, so we're going to have 8 power by the end of turn 2, which feels probably a little bit more powerful than the ninja stuff. But okay, they really want to wasteland us this game. That's what I'm hearing. This is no white mana for Swords to Plowshares if that's what they're doing now. I have to assume it's D&T. This turn I think we just go attacking. 2-turn clock, and I have a removal spell in hand. I know the top card of my library. I can try and brainstorm here, but I don't know if it's worth it trying to brainstorm this turn. I think I'm better off just Fatal Pushing next turn with the Underground Sea. if something weird happens, we can brainstorm. The only thing is this can put a Spirit of the Labyrinth into play, actually. So maybe we should brainstorm a response to it. Just so we don't get Spirit of the Labyrinth out when we want to use this. Like, it's basically the fatal push you want here. The others aren't really useful. I suppose if we keep the strict in hand and the borrow on top, if we need to borrow something rather than fatal push it, we can do that. A little bit of an awkward stage here, though. What was I going to name with this? Goblin. Oh, okay, they're goblins instead. So the removal they're going to have is going to be quite different to what we've been expecting. Okay, they're tapping out with their wastelands. This is excellent for us. Passionate Mons. Okay. So this is going to... Okay, so what we want to do here is we want to play this. Attack with both creatures, I think. They have a Vial on 2. There has to be something coming out of it. I think we have to assume that that's the case. Okay, so then we can see what comes out of this. Munitions Expert. Okay, so they're going to put that on there. So what we're going to do in response is, if we kill this, we want to go 3, and this is whenever another goblin, Passionate Mons or another goblin. So this can still trade up here. If we bounce this, this will only take 1 damage and still die. So either way here, I think we're losing a guy. Yeah, we can make them have some bad blocks though. Because they don't know we have a trick here. Well, they probably do because I spent ages waiting. So they'll probably put the Munitions Expert underneath here. And then we can bounce the Passionate Mons if we bounce this guy. So that way this will die here, my guy will live, they'll take 4, and I have 2 lethal blockers next turn. 2 lethal attackers next turn. I won't have any black mana for my fatal push though. They have a 1-drop? This is a lackey. Okay, we could be getting super duper punished here and just getting smashed up. We did mulligan pretty hard and our hand was a little bit ropey. But I think we put up a pretty good one. I think it was 5, wasn't it? Now they might not have the Muxus. What have you got? Yeah, it's the Muxus. Okay, so we've lost this game. Actually, that's not too bad. Let's see what the ringleader reveals, I guess. Wowzers. Loads of things. And they get to put them into play as early as next turn. How do we win this game? Can we deal 4 damage to our opponent? If our opponent doesn't wasteland us, maybe. They should be wastelanding us though. 19 is a lot. So some of these things are just going to go under the bus immediately. I think we should be playing out our Strix now while we still have black mana. We know they have a Passionate Mons in hand as well. So if we send these under the bus, that's pretty bad for us. I don't think we can attack this turn because they put the Passionate Mons in, they block with these, and they shoot down our Baleful Strix, which is one of the things we're kind of hoping to maybe put in this or a Yuriko and get the final points of damage in. So I think we just have to say go here. I would say we are pretty likely to lose this game. So here's the Passionate Mons we know about. Yep. I'm still amazed they haven't wastelanded us off of our black source there, especially since we missed a land on turn 2 and we haven't played land since we played this. We haven't got wastelanded. So I think our opponent could have made sure that we definitely couldn't play this game by wastelanding us and still win the game quite handily. Okay, so we're basically on F6 here. Yeah. How do we win this game? I don't know if we do here. I think we are dead. I think we should just scoop. They're not putting that many guys. So we can take the 11. We know they've got a Sling Gang Lieutenant though, so we have to block here, right? And this one has to block here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So each one of these they sacrifice is 2 damage. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And they get more stuff off this as well. Yeah, we can just scoop this one up. All right. So, Plague Engineer is going to be good here. Opposition Agent has text. Hydroblast has very good text. Is the Opposition Agent worth it? I don't know, I think we have to wait and see what happens here. Like, I don't know if Force of Wills is going to be where we want to be in this matchup again. So we can board out all of those. We want our removal spells. The bounce spell isn't incredible, but I think it's fine. It's a case of what would I cut if I wanted Opposition Agent to stop? The only thing it stops is Matron, which can be useful, for sure. I think we don't need the Opposition Agent here. I think we just run it like this. Back to Basics does have a decent amount of text in this matchup, but if they have a single Ether Vial, it's kind of irrelevant. I think we just play like this. As much removal as we can muster. This does our thing, so I think we have to keep the thing that does our thing and gets around Wasteland. And we have fetch lands to make our brainstorms better. I suspect this matchup isn't great. I'm not really sure what matchups Ninjas is actually good in. Like, there obviously must be some, so I just don't know what they are because I'm not very familiar with the deck. Get in the red zone, Ornithopter. It's be a good time to have a Snuff Out on top of my deck. Oh, we're getting some action here. Red Elemental Blast, sure. My deck does nothing. Not great. Like, we have to go in there because just having an Ornithopter isn't going to do anything. And I think every turn we wait is going to be worse because they have inevitability because they've got loads of big plays like Muxus in their deck. So I think that Red Elemental Blast is probably enough to lose us the game, to be honest. The margins on this deck seem incredibly thin. I have a Hydroblast, which I like. We definitely don't need Underground Sea. We're going to want another Brainstorm, I think. So we'll put back this Scalding Tarn and play this. And play this one out. And we'll probably go ahead and shuffle this now. So we're getting basic anyway. And then we're in, hopefully we can Hydroblast something good territory. And maybe at some point our deck will have... Yeah, it doesn't feel like the Ninjas is really the best side of this deck. It feels like the Thopter Foundry side is a little bit stronger. I guess certain matchups the Ninja side is going to be better. But we'll see. Skirk Prospector. So what they could be doing here is sandbagging the Cavern of Souls. I think this one is Hydroblastable. I think we want to get rid of this one. Because this is just going to give them loads more looks at stuff. Okay, our plan pretty much now is find Plague Engineer. Murderous Cut's not too shabby. Then we cast the Brainstorm. See if we can find anything here. We have removal. I don't think the Brazen Borrower is where we want to be here. I quite like the other cards here though. So I'm probably going to put them like this. And just play this one out. Because I want the card underneath. And then play this out and we can fetch away the other card. And we can Murderous Cut if we need to. Or Snuff Out. So we have a lot of options of removal here. That we can tailor to what our opponent's doing. And we're above the Rishadan Port here as well, quite nicely, I think. 2 Rishadan Ports. A Goblin War Chief. Can't really attack this turn. So we're definitely cracking this. And I think we have to get a C, just so we can hard cast some of our... So let's see if our opponent tries to Rishadan Port us. I don't think they will. Okay, sure. So we get to go to attacks. It's not amazing. A little chip damage. So I think we cast this changing outcast. And then I think we murderous cut the war chief here. And we'll leave up some mana. I think it's this bluffs like the petty theft that they've already seen. Yeah. And they can port us down. So if we draw that ninja guy that makes you draw a card whenever a ninja connects, that'd be pretty tasty right now because we get 3 cards off of that. We have a free kill spell in hand. So hopefully we can do something with that. And they can tap us off of black mana here if they want to. But they have to sacrifice their Scope Prospector to do so. Sure, they can tap us off of 1 source. I don't think they're going to sacrifice their Prospector. A Ponder. That's a good one. That's the guy we wanted. So we're definitely putting this guy on top of our library. Which I guess means we just put the others like this because we're going to be drawing them all. We will not shuffle our library. We go to attacks. Attack with all creatures, I think. Is it right to attack with all creatures there? I think we can hold the Baleful Strix back. I mean, ninjutsu this guy. Perhaps the Ornithopter. Have they got another Red Blast? Ay, 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 that's annoying. I guess that explains why our opponent's hand isn't doing anything. They've just got all these pieces to stop us. Which seems weird because their game plan is stronger than ours, so they should be just trying to hit their game plan efficiently. I guess they might have only boarded in like 2 or 3 blasts, but you know, sometimes you're going to draw them and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Okay. A Goblin War Chief. I don't think this is going to attack us. So I'm going to kill it this turn probably. We do have this Baleful Strix. We know what's on top of our library if we can remember it. It's the island that we can play here. Play this, we go Hellbent. We keep it in hand, it's better for brainstorms. We play these 2 out into attacks. And I think we have to snuff this guy out now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's still 1 off of casting Muxus. But I think we are just going to be hitting this guy now. Like, they sacrificed their Prospector for it, so it's already a 2 for 1. There's the Lackey, sure. It's got a lot of stuff to get through as a little Lackey. Get ported, sure. What do we draw in? Another one of these. Let's cast it in case we draw... Well, we can't... We don't have a black source, we can't draw the thing. Okay, so... I think we attack these 3 guys. How bad was Pyrokinesis going to be for us here? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so I think we can only attack with 2 here because we want to be able to block the Lackey. If they Pyrokinesis us, we basically just undo everything that's happened because they just get to put Muxus into play or whatever. We're going to keep the iron in hand for the purposes of getting better brainstorms that can get deeper into our deck. And our mana curve only goes up to 4 anyway. A Matron, sure. Any of these turns would be a great turn to draw Plague Engineer. What are they getting with this? Is this the Muxus? Just to make sure they've got it. Or have they got some lines for 3 mana goblins that work? Get a Horde Master or something and then try and use that to get into their deck a little bit deeper. We really need to hit more mana sources here. So it could just be Scope Prospector. Gem Palm Incinerator. Sure. Okay, Brainstorm is a good one. Let's see what it finds. We have a Hydroblast. That's an important one. So we don't want this island. Or not now, at least. And we don't want this Retrofitters. So what we do here is we go to attacks. With just these guys. This is going to be 3 damage. It's 4 if I put this into play. I think it just has to be this. I think we have to not go overboard and get killed by Pyrohemia and stuff. So let's ninjutsu this guy in. leaving open our basic island. So this wants to be blue and this wants to be black. And we'll return this guy. And we get to draw 3 cards. 1, 2. There's the island. Excellent. So I think we play out the Ornithopter here. We'll play out the island. We want to hold up Hydroblast. We also want to have this Retrofit's Foundry in play. So Pyrokinesis can kill these guys, but we can make a 4/4 in response, so that doesn't do enough. We have the Hydroblast to kill something. Maybe we could have attacked last turn just because this can't be Pyrohemiad. But I do have the... Okay, the Sling Gang Lieutenant. This cannot be Hydroblasted. Maybe I don't know if I wanted to kill one of these in response. It doesn't feel like a very strong play. So making a 4/4 here isn't actually very helpful because it just gives them... These can just chomp and then ping us to the face. So I don't really care about making a 4/4 unless it's on blocks. So this guy is going to get blocked if he attacks. So I think all we do this turn is just swing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Swing with all the guys that they can't block with. This will draw us 2 cards still because this is whenever a ninja deals combat damage to a player. So we get 2 cards out of the deal here. Snuff Out is very good. Not quite good enough for this, but needs must, I suppose. So we can play out an unblockable guy. Play out another unblockable guy. I think we hold the Ornithopter for Brainstorm. If we draw one. We can make a servo here and also have the Hydroblast up. So I think we're in a pretty good spot. We can't Hydroblast something on the stack. Gem Palm Incinerator. So what is this going to target? I presume you're going to target that guy. Honestly, that's not how we're winning the game anymore. It's just these 1/1 unblockables. Because they're going to have to sack all their guys to stay alive. And I think we make a 1/1 one of these guys. And next turn, hopefully we can make a servo. Okay, we're getting ported down here. That's fine. Days might be useful. Seems unlikely though. Let's go to attacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Attacking with 7 unblockable 1/1s. And they only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they are dead. Alright, game 3. I don't think the daisies are going to be amazing here. Like, I wouldn't mind some more removal spells. I think we need a Thoughtseize here. Because if we're on the play, we need to Thoughtseize the thing that's gonna... We need more ways to stop the... I think we brought it back to basics, actually. So we need more ways to stop the Muxus coming in off of the Lackey. So we need maximum removal and the Thoughtseize for it. So it's a slightly different setup here. I don't really like counter spells in the face of Cavern and Ether Vial. I don't mind the daisies on the play, but I don't think they're worth keeping on the draw. This is a very slow hand that I don't think I can keep. This is a much better hand that I think I can keep. The question is what goes back here. I think Yuriko is going to be better than Ingenious Infiltrator. Or are we just binning back the Strix? I think the Strix is too good here and Ponder is too good. I think it has to be one of the 2 ninjas. This one deals 2 damage when it connects and can make this guy into just a draw engine. So I think this guy is the better one. I think we put the Yuriko back. And if we draw an Ornithopter, this hand becomes a lot better. We might be priced into having to ponder on turn 1 depending on what our opponent does. They did not have a play on turn 1. Okay, that's good for us. We do not want to ponder into an open red blast. Back to basics that we boarded in. Interesting. Okay, so we'll play this guy that they can't Pyroblast. Importantly, this guy can't block though, so he can't do anything about a Lackey. But if they had a Lackey, they would have played on 1 because it's the best thing they can do. So let's see what this gets. We might be able to get them with a back to basics. Looks like they are not expecting it. So if they tap out here, we can get our Ingenious Infiltrator drawing cards and get that engine online. Munitions Expert. We're just going to lose our Changing Outcast, unfortunately. Sure. It does mean we can ponder freely now if we want to, or we can just cast the Baleful Strix and have that to bounce with the Ingenious Infiltrator later. Let's see what we draw first. Opposition Agent. I think this turn the best play we can do is to play the Baleful Strix. Gets deeper into our deck, gives us a very good thing to bounce. The Borrower here is not looking great, but if we can draw into a land, we might be able to back to basics our opponent out of the game. And they will probably not see it coming. We will not block this. No Goblin Ninjutsu. A Goblin Lackey. A Rishdan Port. Okay, so probably not getting to... so they're gonna... Do we Petty Theft? I think we Petty Theft the Lackey here. We're unlikely to use this black mana this turn anyway. If we're not blocking this turn, we should be attacking. Well, like we could have just held the Baleful Strix back to block, but it only takes them to have one thing, and then we can't do that anymore. So I suspect this turn will just be a rebuy of the previous turn. But if they've got additional mana, they might be incentivized to play something else, and then we might be able to back to basics them out here. Looks like that's not the case there. So we're probably going to lose our basic island again, since it was good last turn. Probably be good this turn. So now we're relying on the Baleful Strix being able to block, which is... Oh, they've blocked the swamp. Interesting. They went for the island last time. This means they have Hydroblast up, doesn't it? It's the only problem. But if they use Hydroblast on my Ponder rather than my Baleful Strix, then they won't be able to put this in. So I think we play this out into the open Pyroblast. Yeah. We do that purely because it means our Baleful Strix lives. It's not pretty, and there's many ways in which it could go wrong, but it's what we have to do. Okay, yeah, so they had another removal spell as well. Sure. So if they have a Muxus, I think the game is over. Because their deck is doing objectively more powerful things than ours. So we kind of have to thread the needle quite carefully to win games, to be honest. And even then, it doesn't necessarily work. Let's see what they have here. Sling-Gang Lieutenant. Not as bad as a Muxus, but not far behind. It's going to be very difficult to overcome. We're also getting ported every turn here. Okay, we have a Brainstorm we can't cast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess we can cast our Changing Outcast. This isn't really going to do us any good. This can't block as well. It can't block and can't be blocked. So, not that you ever really want to be blocking it with it, but now would be okay to block with, I suppose. Gem Palm Incinerator. Seems a little excessive, to be honest. Especially tapping down your ports. Now the problem here is, even if I get the chance to play a back to basics, I'm going to die before it, because my opponent can just do all of this stuff. My opponent doesn't need much here. War Marshal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so I need one goblin. Oh no, this makes a spare goblin, doesn't it, when it dies? Yeah. Okay, so we are just dead on board. So we will scoop this one up. 0-2. So we're getting games in these matches, but it feels like it's very hard to turn the corner sometimes. Like convert your early things. Like they had the previous game, they had the one red blast that nearly just destroyed us completely. And then this game, we kind of just got ported out of the game pretty hardcore there. We didn't really get to do our thing at any point, so... Alright, we'll go on to the next round and see how we do. We're on the play, which is where we want to be, but we'd also like some lands. So we're going to have to mulligan this one. This hand tries to win the game with just a Retrofitter's Foundry, which seems terrible, so I'm going to mulligan. This hand is... close. I think we have to keep it. We do have 2 cantrips to smooth it out. We have this, which can draw us into more things. I don't think we can go to 4 cards though. So we've got to get rid of 2 of these. Interesting. I think Island Ponder is what we're doing on the first turn. I think we either have to commit to the retrofitters plan here or the Euroko plan. I think we get rid of these. I kind of want to keep strict to the brainstorm, but I think if things go badly, we will need this brainstorm. And I'd rather be in a situation where we have a chance to win rather than just not having a chance at all. So I think that's where we go from here. Come on, Ponder, bail me out. Yeah, that's fine, I guess. So we get 2 of these. So we would like to have the 2 fetches, because that way it makes our brainstorm a lot better. So next turn we can make Changeling Outcast, and we can brainstorm if we need to, and shuffle it away. We'll only be able to shuffle away 1 card if we do that. So we'll see. A bauble. So Aligns Our Diamond. Okay, this could be the Epic Storm. We'll get a closer indication when we see what lands they fetch. It's definitely giving me the Epic Storm vibes though, which is going to be bad for us, to be honest. We don't have a huge array of counter magic right now. We have to play. So we can brainstorm first and then play our guy. We're looking for counter magic here, really. That's not really what I would describe as counter magic. So I think we do want this polluted delta or the Strix. I think we put the Strix back because next time we're casting Euroko and Ponder. So I think that's the correct play here. We'll crack this. Get swamp. Like, we might just be down the next turn anyway, so it might not matter. Alright. Do your worst, opponent. Or do nothing would be better, but... Okay, so this looks like they're going to cycle a Veil of Summer, perhaps, because they've tapped for green here. Yep, so there's a Veil of Summer cycled. Which makes me think they probably have another one, or they don't have any action in their hand. And they kept a hand with all the mana, just looking for an action piece. Yep, this is definitely the Epic Storm. This selection of land, Verdant Catacombs, Bloodstone Mire, Underground Sea, is a dead giveaway, especially with the Veil of Summer, because the Epic Gamble doesn't run Veils. Okay, so playing out the Lines Like Diamond. They are in the begin combat step, so I think they probably need to wait till we get to main, and then they can do whatever they were going to do. A Galvanic Relay. Sure. Just a little one. Brainstorm and Burning Wish. So we can Ponder first to try and hit a bigger thing with the Euroko. Or we can Brainstorm afterwards. But then we won't have as many. I think we are supposed to Ponder first here. The Snuff Out hits for a lot of damage, but none of these cards are good in this matchup. So I think we any order and shuffle. Okay, the Daze has text on it. Might not have a lot of text, but it has text. Against our opponent, we can easily just get an Underground Sea here. I think we go to attacks. Let's ninjutsu this guy in. Euroko, the Tiger's Shadow. Let's see what we draw. Ooh, hit for 4 though. That's not the worst. We have a Daze. Not sure how good the Daze are going to be in the face of the amount of mana they have, but at least it has some text on it. Like, all my removal has no text on it, so... A Brainstorm. A very quick resolve Brainstorm, which doesn't bode well for us. Okay, the Veil of Summer. So we can Daze here. And what does that do? It doesn't stop them being able to cast Burning Wish into Lines Like Diamond this turn, but it does stop them being able to Burning Wish into 3, 6, 7. So if I Daze this, I think we do Daze this. Well, that's a regular island, it's fine. It just means they can't peer into the abyss if they pay for this. So it gives them something to think about. Like, we're basically dead this turn if they want to go for it anyway. But this way, it makes them wonder if they can get the peer line that they were thinking of doing. They've paid with the mana they had. Okay, cool. The Mox Opal was tapped for that. So they have... So they can Burning Wish, But they don't have 7 mana from Peer into Abyss, which is the most deterministic line, I think. It's pretty much impossible to lose if you draw high for library of this deck. Yeah, so there's the Burning Wish we knew about. Can't be countered, so you just press F6 and see what our opponent does. Echo of Eons. Okay, so they've had to go for an Echo line instead of the Peer line because they had to pay for it. So what does our hand do? Not a great fan of what I'm seeing here. Okay, Force of Will is nice though. I think we... Do we brainstorm or do we just try and play a Brazen Borrower? I think we have to brainstorm here. We got these 2 removal spells that do nothing in our hand. So we get rid of these 2. Fortunately, we don't have a way of shuffling. So now I think we're going to play this one out. Which order did we put them in? Oh man, I wish I could remember what order I put them in. I think the cut went bottom. Which means you want to play this one out first. Yes, okay. So this will hit them for 5 more damage this turn to draw through the cut. So that makes some of their other lines more challenging. I think we will play this one out so we don't have to go to discard. Let me say go. So we have plenty of... we have Force of Will, we have Daze, so we can do stuff. Now, is stuff going to be good enough here? Our opponent's got a lot of mana, so this Daze is looking pretty bad. But it might be able to do something. Oh, our opponent's passing the turn here. That's very good for us. Retrofitter's Foundry. That's not the most exciting here. We don't have a way of getting deeper into our deck. Apart from when this connects. So I think we just go attack with these 2. And hope to flip a big spell. This is a really interesting timing of this. This makes me think my opponent could be ad nauseum, but I don't mind if they're ad nauseum here. Oh, Prismatic Vista. That wasn't the one, was it? Okay, so we put a land. I think we can play out this Retrofit's Foundry. That gives us lethal. So our opponent has to try and kill us next turn. They were just using the Veil of Summer to... well, it doesn't even cycle there, right? Maybe they were trying to bait me into a counter spell so they could cycle. Or do something else with that. I don't know. Okay, so we got the game won. So our opponent is playing Storm. Hydroblast is going to be good here. Force of Negation is going to be good here. Hurkyl's Recall has text. Back to Basics has text. Opposition Agent has text. Plague Engineer is going to be good if they're bringing in goblins. Surgical Extraction has text. Thoughtseize has text. Leyline is okay, but not great here. It's not as good as people seem to think it is. So I think we want to take out all of our kill spells and see how many slots that gets us first. So that basically pays for all of the blue stuff. I think Brazen Borrower is not good enough here. We want Daze even on the draw just because it's a spell that does something here. So if we're looking at these things... Okay, so let's put the definites over here. So I think the Opposition Agent is probably what I would describe as a definite here. So we get one more of these cards. So we can take the Plague Engineer to hedge against goblins. Now if we want any more of these, you've got to cut in. So I don't think the Hurkyl's Recall is good enough here. Like, it has text, but a lot of the time you bounce and then you're just going to replay them all because they're all 0-drops anyway. But sometimes you can, like, if they cast a Echo of Eons and they've got some artifact in play, you can bounce them and mess with them. But I think that's too much of a corner case. The Surgical Extractions and the Plague Engineer are all options here. I think we want to keep our blue card density as high as possible. So if we're cutting anything, we have to cut a non-blue card, which I think is probably going to be like a Retrofitter's Foundry just for another one of these because it's a threat on its own. I don't think we can realistically bring in the Surgicals. The Surgicals aren't great against the Epic Storm. They're fine, but that's about it. I think we'll play like this. This is a really awkward hand. Because I want to play the Outcast out so I can make the Yuriko. But that means I have to go and get a swamp with this, which means I can't daze, which means I'm basically blind for our opponent's turn 2. I think we can mulligan this. This doesn't look great either, does it? Yikes. I think we keep it though. And we get rid of this one, I think. So we have a Force of Will. And we have a Hydroblast. Now depending on how turns play out, depends on what I need to use. Drawing a blue card here or a land would be nice. Okay, this is very much the best of all the worlds. I think we play out this guy. And this way, if we have to Force of Will and get rid of our Yuriko, we can keep Hydroblast Retrofit's Foundry and just have a 4/4 beaten down. Which is fine. It's not great, but it'll do. Now our opponent is a Veil of Summer deck. So they can just Veil and go off, and there's not a great deal we can do to stop that. There's the Bayou and a Bauble. Looks like they're passing the turn. It's good news for us. A blue card here would be excellent. Yep, so doing this in my turn so that I can't discard a card out of their hand. There's not a blue card. So I think the optimal play here is to get an island. We'll attack. I don't think we can go shields down on this turn. I think we have to Hydroblast, Force of Will as our options. And then this is going to be a 4/4, so it's going to be a fine way of beating down. And if we get more turns, maybe we can put this into play after this guy, after we get like a servo or something out. But I think we need the blue cards that interact here. And a 4/4 is going to be enough of a threat most of the time. Now, they could have brought in Abrupt Decays here, which should be bad. But they're always going to be able to hit something that we play. Yep, so here's an Abrupt Decay. We can't counter that because it's uncounterable. That was one of the things I was worried about a little bit. Play this out. I think we're just making a servo and holding up Pyroblast, Force of Will. If we can get the Yuriko into play off of a servo, that would be good for us, but we might have to pitch it to Force of Will. I think we don't pitch the Hydroblast. It's too high value when one of their payoff spells is the Burning Wish. We're all about that servo life here. Right, Tiger. Do I have a lot of mana? It feels like one of the ones I'm supposed to counter. This could be a bait spell though, because they have the green up for the Force of Vigor here. Not Force of Vigor, Veil of Summer. Thing is, if I don't Force of Will this, no, I think this is probably a horrible mistake. I'm going to let this go because I don't want to give them a Veil of Summer line to completely blank and Force of Will. So if they cast a Veil of Summer before they start doing something, I can at least Force of Will that and Hydroblast the Wish. That's my plan at least. Let's make a survey. A blue card, please. Not a blue card. So we have a choice here. We can try and get the Yuriko in, which I think we probably have to do at this stage. I'm going to crack this now just so we can leave up our Underground Sea. The reason we want to do this is in case we draw the Thought Seas that we have. Hopefully we hit like a Force of Will or something. Doing them for 5. Another Yuriko. Okay, so we found the blue card we wanted. I think we play this out because we can work towards hard casting a Force of Will. And this gives us enough mana to make another Retrofitted Foundry token, which can give us slightly more damage if necessary. Well, it's definitely necessary. We're not going to have that many turns there. This turn our opponent has a wealth of riches in terms of Wishclaw Talisman into whatever they want. They have drawn a lot of lands though, which is alright for us because we're not on a days line. Okay. This will get us an Underground Sea as well, I think. And then we will... Okay, they're bobbling us. Interesting time to do that. Could mean they've got something like a fatal push they want to use. Seems weird that you want to draw the card in my turn, to be honest. Okay. I think this is just a case of attack with all my creatures and see how the land lies after this. Let's see what I draw for the trigger. Another land. So this allows me to hard cast Force of Will. Now the question is what I'm doing here enough damage? So I can pay 1 mana, 3 mana. So I can turn this into a 4/4 next turn. I think it's better to hold up Force of Will. But I think we're probably still not even Force of Willing here, right? We just want to be able to make our guy bigger and hold up. Yeah, so this is 1 mana to turn into a servo and then tap it. So 3 mana. So I need 4 mana for this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can Hydroblast, make a 4/4, and Force of Will, pitching Yuriko. My opponent's drawn yet another land, which is pretty bad for them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're pretty close to casting Peer into the Abyss. Okay, so it looks like we've got a little bit of movement here. A Mox Opal. Wishclaw Talisman. We can't interact with this, unfortunately. We get the Wishclaw Talisman, but it's almost always wrong to activate and give it back to your Storm opponent unless you're doing it to like kill them on the turn. Dark Ritual. Sure. So I've got the green floating for the Veil here. Another Wishclaw. 2 cards in hand. I think we have to counter this one. The problem with this is if they have a Veil, I think we let this go because the Storm decks tend to only have tendrils in the board now, as of Brian Cook smashing the old 5-0 league the other day. So I think we're okay to fight over the Burning Wish. So getting a Wishclaw. So we can Wishclaw for Brainstorm and put a 5-drop on top if we still have the Force of Will by the time it gets to our turn. So then we do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage. So that still won't be enough actually. So seems like it's going to be difficult for us to kill our opponent this turn. On our next turn if we get another turn. Galvanic Relay. Interesting. That's one that I can live with, I think. For 5. So we got here. Get to see what our opponent's working with. Okay, so they had no payoffs in that. That's good for us. So we want to go play this, turn this into a guy, untap this, turn this into a 4/4. Like if I had lock pieces, then I could Wishclaw for something, but that's not something my deck does. So I think this turn we are just going to attack with these 2. My opponent does get 1 more turn. Ooh, that was a big hit. So we got blue card, blue card. Okay, so I don't actually need to do anything just yet. I think we're okay to just pitch all these, which means do we want to spend our mana? So this costs a lot of mana to do the whole chain. So I think we play our black spell since that's not doing anything. And then we keep hold of these. So our opponent's got 1 card in hand and no payoffs in the exile zone for the Galvanic Relay. We have Hydroblast, Force of Will, Force of Will. Let's see if my handful of counter magic is enough. I think it should be. They're hard counters as well, so I don't need to worry about messing with my opponent's mana here. And I can counter a Veil of Summer. I think we are A-okay. So this is going to be a 4/4 attack as well. Our opponent's going to 1. Ad Nauseam is not a line. Peer Through the Abyss is not a line either. Okay, so playing these cards we know about from the exile zone. I don't think my opponent has any lands left in the deck either. We'll tap for mana. The Bright Flame, sure. A Dark Ritual. So there's 2 cards in their hand, and I have 3 counter spells. So I think we're okay. A Natural Tendrils. Veil of Summer. So we have to Force of Will this one. This is building up storms. If they do have natural tendrils, okay, they just count that. Sure. So we got the win there. felt like we were applying a little bit of pressure and they're not blocking, so our sort of like medium men actually kind of get the job done there, really. And if we can start drawing extra cards as we were, then it really sort of hammers it home. So I think that was okay. Let's go to round 4. We're 1 and 2. We've won the die roll again, which is great, but our hand is not, so we need to mulligan this one. This hand is asking an awful lot for the brainstorm to do, and it's not necessarily something we can do realistically that quickly. Like, is making turn 2 Baleful Strix going to be good enough? I guess with the Forcible backup it's probably fine. We pitch one of these islands. So we might have to be doing the dreaded turn 1 Brainstorm here to make sure just we have the best chance of everything going right after we cast our Baleful Strix. Also depends what our opponent casts here. A Caracas into Sigada's Aid. Okay, so our opponent's playing Hammer. So I'm going to cast this Brainstorm. I've played the Hammer deck a fair bit myself, so I know what to do with it and what not to do with it. We do not want 2 Ornithopters. We'll put. There's definitely a possibility of counterspelling this. I think I'm just going to play this Baleful Strix out and try and deal with their threats, because the deck doesn't have a great deal of threats outside of Urza's Saga. So it's been, when I've been playing it myself, I found it quite an Urza's Saga dependent deck. Okay, Cavern of Souls. That makes my Force of Will less exciting. Ornithopter. Sure. So they didn't have an uncountered way of putting Dark Confident. That was not what I was expecting. Okay, our opponent's doing something a little bit different with the Hammer deck here. I like it. So what are we looking at here? We get to draw a card. Do we want to Brainstorm first? I don't think our hand... I guess we could do with a removal spell. It's one thing we're missing. This will have to get us an Underground Sea. I don't think my opponent can be playing 2-color Hammer deck with Wastelands. I think that's ridiculously greedy. So let's Brainstorm. So we definitely don't want 2 Force of Wills. The Snuff Out is nice. We definitely want that. Brainstorm is okay. I think we'd rather just keep like this and play this. Get ourselves Underground Sea and go to attacks. I think we attack with just the Ornithopter this time. Well, they have an Ornithopter of their own, of course they do. What am I doing? That was a mistake. I'm just not used to people blocking with Ornithopters. I'm just completely bricked on that on my brain. That's not bad. That's not good, is it? Sure, let's see. That was a terrible turn. Paradise Mantle. And cast that anytime. Flash. So what we could do here is we can kill the Ornithopter, which feels bad. I think we just want to hit whatever they cast, right? Let's see what they have. A Scrubland. Sure. Right, our opponent's deck is quite different to the usual Hammer fare. So this could be something like, oh no, 2 mana. This could be the Paladin. That's fine. Dark Confident. Do I want to trade my Baleful Strix for a Dark Confident? Not this turn, I don't think to. I want to be able to do the play I was going to do before. So Colossus Hammer. So we kill this guy first. And then we Force of Will the Hammer, pitching this guy. We're a little bit light on the old resources here. So the idea is that the one of my 2 creatures can connect. So we get this, we get a card out of it. It's a Ponder. Do I want to cast a Ponder now, or do I want to just make the Retrofitter's Foundry so I can make a 4/4? That is a tricky choice. I think we cast the Ponder, because if we hit land, we get to cast Retrofitter's Foundry anyway. We do not want to draw any of these. Did not hit the land there. Okay, so we were a little bit punished on that one. We probably didn't need to use the Snuff Out. Oh, what did they reveal? Sorry, it's Cavern of Souls. Sure. Just gonna name Core, so they can cast Uncountable Stoneforge Mystic. They might not have Stoneforge Mystic, to be fair. Seems wild in a Hammer deck to not have it, but another Dark Confident. I assume one of these is just going to go under the bus of my guy anyway. Yeah. So attack with this one, they chump with the other one. That's a fine play. Nettle Cyst. Are they going to equip it, or are they just going to leave it as is? Oh, they're doing it with flash, aren't they? So this is going to be a 6/5 hitting us this turn. Yeah, that's pretty good. No, they're not. Okay, so they stack the triggers wrong here, so they don't get to hit us with a 6/5. Because this has a living weapon I think living weapon counts as a trigger, right? That's why it pinged off. Could be a moto bag as well. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so we have a Force of Will now, but we have this Death Touch creature that we really want to play. So I think we play this guy and hope he draws us into... Okay, a Daze is passable here. I think we just play this though. And then we can make a large guy. So we can't really attack with our Infiltrator anymore. It's going to be quite hard to find a way through this. And our opponent's going to be burying us with card advantage with these guys. I suspect 3 is probably the highest mana cost goes. Urza Saga. So we almost certainly lose to the Urza Saga. I don't know how we can fare against that at the moment. We're going to need our Hercules Recalls for this matchup. It's a Moxo pool. So our Baleful Strix has Death Touch, which is important. And we have a 4/4. But they do have 1, 2, 3, 4. So these will be 5/5, the first one that comes out. And the second one will be a 6/6, becoming a 7/7 once they tutor. And they're going to tutor for a Colossus Hammer. So the clock has very much been laid out here. Swords to Plowshares on our Baleful Strix. Honestly, I think countering this is fine. I think the counter magic isn't going to get very good here because what's beating us here is either uncountable for the Saga or for the Cabinet Souls. Whereas this way, we can keep a Death Toucher back. This is interesting. So how much does this cost to equip? 2. And we kind of have to block this, unfortunately. And then they're going to stick it on the Dark Confident. Yeah. The one that won it earlier. It's an 8/7. That's quite large, isn't it? So let's make a 4/4. We can make another 4/4 from our hand as well. This can't really attack though. Then we cast this. So we have 2 4/4s to block with. So we can kill the Dark Confident, but we'll lose basically all of our guys. What we can't even block with the Outcast and then turn it into a guy. So maybe we should have sandbagged the Ornithopter for that. Maybe that was the right play there. So they have an Opposition Agent and a Colossus Hammer. So the Colossus Hammer we can't counter and will immediately slap onto one of their guys. So we're definitely in Chump Block Town. We have removal spells that kill this. Fatal Push, Snuff Out, doesn't kill it unfortunately. Stoneforge Mystics. They do have cores in there and they didn't name core with their second cavern. Interesting. So this is probably just going to go and get another Colossus Hammer. Which, oh no, it's getting the Shadow Spear. Interesting. So they can play out Shadow Spear and Colossus Hammer with Flash here. I think we are dead. I think we should just concede this game. So, the Plague Engineers are going to be good here. They're going to be able to kill some of their humans. The Opposition Agent is also going to be decent here. The Hercules Recalls are going to be excellent, I would imagine. The Caracas isn't really going to get a lot done. Take Extraction, no. Thoughtseize here is definitely an option. Force of Negation, if I just want to hit the enchantment on turn 1, I think Force of Negation is a sound idea. So let's see. We need to keep our removal spells in. That's a given. Our Ornithopters don't look great in this matchup because they have their own Ornithopters. What a weird way to be. The Brazen Borrowers here are actually fine as well. The Snuff Outs hit some of their guys. It's just one of their guys it doesn't hit. Maybe we're just being the control play here and we bought out these 4 Ornithopters. And then we're probably trimming on... Maybe it's Borrowers. And then we have to decide if we want both of these in or not. Like, their hands tend to be relatively easy to pick apart, but I think we'll try this out. This hand doesn't go doesn't really go anywhere, does it? I have to choose one of my colours of mana. I don't have any cantrips. I think I have to mulligan this. Someone has a removal spell and a counter spell. We have a 1-drop that's not very good. I think we're supposed to get... the opposition agent is so good here, though. I think we have to get rid of the Retrofitter's Foundry and just sit back doing nothing, which is awful. But I think that is our best bet in this particular game. Because we only need to take out a few specific pieces and the sort of house of cards that they have falls apart. So this is Sigarda's Aid. Steel Shaper's Gift. That's fine. Paradise Mantle, sure. And the Paradise Mantle they're playing. And the Mox. So this is online now. And they're thought seizing us. Very cheeky. Yeah, I think we just have to let that go. I don't think it gets better if we keep. I think we're relatively. Well, we're going to lose our counter spell here, which isn't great. I think that's the easy hit here because that's the main interaction we have going forward. So, okay, they're playing a second Mox Opal. A Sigarda's Aid. Okay. So they're nearly out of cards. But we haven't done anything. And we can't do anything. We can kill the first creature they play to try and stick the equipment on. But if their next drop is something like as a Saga, I think we just lose the game. Esper Sentinel. We can kill that. Paradise Mantle equipping on this guy. I think we just cast a 4 life. Pay 1 to prevent this, yes. No cards for you. Kind of need a mana source. We did not hit a mana source. But we might be able to fire one off of the bird. Let's have a look. Okay, we did find a mana source. So next turn we can opposition agent, but our opponent knows that. We're also kind of incentivized to try and get one of these guys drawing cards out of our sort of a little bit of a shaky hand there. Steel Shaper's Gift. Okay, so they're getting it all in before the opposition agent. So, okay, so they've got to Nettle Cyst now. Okay, so I think what we do this turn is we attack with this. And then we command and ninjutsu this guy. This Yuku, and then we turn this. Then we play out the Changeling Outcast. And then next turn we can put the... Okay, so they've got swords for that. Interesting. If we had an additional mana, then we could boot this one out. But I guess we just play out the Outcast here, and then next turn we try and draw some cards. Yeah, if we had one more mana, we could replace, we can ninjutsu again. Okay. So this might be the Nettle Cyst. Yep, so there's a Nettle Cyst we've seen. And this doesn't... So this is what? 1, 2, 3, 4... 4? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and enchantment. Sorry. I forget the enchantment clause. It so rarely comes up. Sure. Seems pretty good for them. So let's have a look. Polluted Delta. So this guy can attack. They can't block. And then we get a card here. Hopefully it'll be a nice one, like a removal spell. A Scalding Tarn. That wasn't quite the one I wanted. And then we will play this out. I think we've already got one non-basic, so just get the other non-basic to make our mana nice and safe. Blue, black. So we'll cast our Death Touch guy, so we've got a blocker. And we've got a Ponder to gas up with next turn and try and find the right bits and pieces. So our opponent could do some pretty scary things this turn. But if we get to untap, I think we're okay. Equipping the Paradise Mantle was interesting. Okay, I guess they weren't doing anything else that turn, so that makes sense in that case. Okay, so we can Ponder or we can Brainstorm. I think we would rather Brainstorm in this situation. Okay, so we have a Snuff Out, which doesn't hit the Germ token. So that doesn't feel great here. We do have all these bonus Ponders that we don't really want. I think we can put these 2 Ponders back. This will snuff out the next thing, basically. We can play this one out. An island. So this one is not attacking this turn. So I think we ponder. The days is going to be pretty good looking at what they've got going. So I think we do delta, ponder, days, and we keep the days in hand. Because they're pretty constrained on mana right now. So I think we are better off playing this changing outcast. Because it draws a card with the infiltrator in play. So I think that is better than playing the opposition agent this turn. Which is unusual, but I think that's true. So our opponent doesn't have a huge amount of mana. Okay, so they have an Esper Sentinel. So this is one we can shoot if we need to with the Snuff Out. I think we go to blocks here. Interesting. So they can do something instant speed here, but we have a daze for that, so I don't think that's a problem. I think we ponder here. And we will pay. I think we're paying with a black mana here. This is pretty good. We don't want all of these though, is the only issue. We want the Yuriko. Is there a way that I think we just have to shuffle here. Not ideal, but such is life. We're about to bounce on with days anyway, so I think we play this out and we attack both guys. So if they sort of plowshares us here, we get to daze it. Oh, we're just getting to draw 2 cards, okay. We are cooking with gas over here. So I think we go black, blue, play this, and then we can, oh, I think we just play this guy out here. It's another draw engine. So we're going to leave this 1 mana up to pay for the Esper Sentinel, because we might want to daze and snuff out next turn. I think we are in command of this game now, in a pretty sizable fashion. Nettle Cyst. Sure, you can equip to that guy. I've got this massive... I've got this Death Touch guy. I'm quite happy to block with this guy. Sure. So we're drawing like so many cards every turn here. Attack with all creatures. Draw some cards. And another one. And another one. Okay, there's conceding. Cool. So he had the Plague Engineer there as well. So I think the way I sideboarded there is quite good. I just answer their threats and then eventually win. I think the Thoughtseize has a bit more merit on the... is it better on the play? I don't think I can have the Thoughtseize hit, right? I think I just have to counter the Sigarda's Aid and kill the guys that let them equip stuff for free. I think that's how we win this game. So I think we just submit. So this opening hand has a cantrip and 2 removal spells. I think we can actually keep this one. We're not the aggro in this matchup. We are the control. So I think this hand is fine. Sigarda's Aid. We can't counterspell that, unfortunately. Mox Opal. It's unlikely they can get online here unless they have the Ancient Den on turn 1 for the Mox Opal. So this turn we have choices. I think the correct choice is almost always to ponder here. We need to get cards in our bin for Murderous Cut. And we should have a turn with a Fatal Push anyway. The Strix here is excellent. The Underground Sea, not so much. So we put the Underground Sea on top first. We don't really want that one. Then we'll take the Brainstorm and the Strix and we can shuffle away next turn. So we have a plan that we can do here if we get the opportunity to, but otherwise we're just going to be killing our opponent's things. Retrofitter's Foundry. That's an interesting one. So we want to shuffle away the other card on top. So I think we go and get an Underground Sea here. Our opponent hasn't shown us anything to mess with our lands. So black, blue. Get this guy, draw some cards. Opposition Agent. This could be very good in the near future. We can steal the equipment that they go and find. Well, we can go and find the equipment we want, which will be like the Colossus Hammer here. Okay, they don't actually have a creature that immediately equips to using the Sigarda's Aid, so that feels like an error. Our hand's got some redundancy. We've got 2 removal spells, 2 brainstorms, 2 threats. Okay, they took the Yuriko, not the opposition agent. That's interesting to me. So their plan is to play a Pure Steel Paladin here, I think. So I think we Play this out. Attack with our Strix. And then we will ninjutsu this guy back. And get another card. So we could have held up the opposition agent there, but I think drawing more cards is better. And we've just drawn a counter spell as well. Like, we have removal spells, so they can't equip the hammer to anything. So I think we are in line to win this one. So this counters the equipment. Thoughtseize. I do not want to be Thoughtseized. I think this is worth giving up a brainstorm for. Our opponent has one card in hand, so we're so far ahead in this game. The way we lose it is if they manage to stick a threat that I can't immediately kill. Like, I'm basically drawing multiple cards every turn here, so I can certainly afford to pitch resources that way to make sure that I can kill whatever I need to. Okay, Prismatic Vista. Okay, so now we want to be opposition agenting. Retrofitter's Foundry. Sure. This is just going to chump block. And we will main phase this while they don't have any mana up. So that shuts off a bunch of their cards. And we have the ability to go and get a swamp and fatal push them because there are 2 swamps in the deck. Can I check the numbers of basics in the deck to make sure that I didn't make a mistake like this? So, opponent's played a Caracas, a Pure Steel Paladin. So this can't be countered. But we don't care about that. Sure. This will still have CMC2 and still die to Fatal Push. This does not have haste. We will save this Prismatic Vista for the purpose of our brainstorm. So let's brainstorm. Okay, quite a lot of riches here. I think we put them like this. And then we can kill this guy with this. Then we get to attack. We get to draw the Baleful Strix that we want. And then we can shuffle away the island we don't want if we don't want it. I'm not going to play out the Strix here. I'm going to hold up Hardcast Daze and Murderous Cut in case something goes wrong. Sure, you can have a survey token. We can draw that island so we can hardcast Foster Wills. Okay, they made a mistake there. They were supposed to make another Retrofitter's token and double block on the opposition agent, I think. Okay, let's cast this guy. Okay, yeah, we can definitely play out this guy as well. That was our second blue card. Okay, we have another blue card. Cool. But I was okay to tap down for just the Force of Will because the Daze is not going to work now anyway. So the Daze is probably what's getting pitched to the Force of Will. That's why that was okay to empty my hand of other blue cards. So you have a Pure Steel Paladin. Sure. You can put your hammer on your guy. You can get attacked if you want. I'm afraid you're not going to be happy with that. Okay, they've conceded the match. They did not appear particularly happy in the old chat there. But there we go. I kept this hand with 2 removal spells in the first place, so it's not really a luck sack ripping them. I specifically kept a hand that just removed stuff. Anyway, that's 2 and 2 going to the final round, so we can get the pity trophy or whatever it is for the 3-2. So let's see if we can give that a go and get a positive record with ninjas. Carry, our opponent is on the play, so we're on the draw. Our hand is an interesting one. We have the Ornithopter, so we can ponder on turn 1 to try and find one of our ninjas. And if that doesn't work, we have Baleful Strix, and we've got this Daze to hopefully sit on and break serve with the curve a little bit. So I think we can keep this one. Look a lot better on the play, but that's basically every ninja's hand. Our opponent's mulligan to 5 cards. Gives me the impression my opponent's playing a combo deck, most likely, because they're the ones that tend to need certain pieces. Yep, okay, Lion's Eye Diamond. Lotus Petal. Red Mana, Gamble. Okay, so this looks like the Epic Gamble to me. We've beaten the Epic Storm today, so maybe we can beat the Epic Gamble. We cannot do anything about that, so we will draw a new hand. This hand doesn't interact with our opponent and isn't particularly exciting. Lion's Eye Diamond. Lion's Eye Diamond. Mox Opal. Seaman Spirit Guide. Mana off the Mox. Grim Monolith. Sure. They've got 2 cards left in hand. Okay, so they've got an Echo of Eons, and they're going to do it with 3 mana floating and the untapped Grim Monolith. This time we've found a Force of Will. So the next time they try and spin will be alright, but the chances are they can hit a Defense Grid or an Overmaster. Burgi. Burgi is a strong one here. They've only got 5 cards in hand. I think we have to hit the Burgi here. I think it's the Strix here. We want this because it's the faster clock. So we want to be able to Ornithopter, Retrofitter's Foundry, and then maybe hit a Swamp for next turn. And we can get him for 4, 5, plus whatever I flip. So we can get a reasonable damage going. Galvanic Relay, Storm is 13. So this is going to be a big one. So our opponent's going to have a very strong turn next turn. So Defense Grid is the first one. Let's have a look. Burning Wish, Sim Spirit Guide, Gamble, Overmaster. Yeah, so our opponent should be able to kill us pretty easily next turn. Question is, how much do we show? So next turn they have... We just do the maths. So Defense Grid... they got 3 cards in hand, so Promox probably works. Lion's Eye Diamond, Sim Spirit Guide. They can cast the Burgi, the Rite of Flame, Chromox, Gamble to go again if they want to. Yeah, I think we are dead to that. I'd rather not show my opponent what I'm doing. I think what they have here beats us. Yeah, they got the Burning Wish there, and they got loads of mana, so I think it's best just to let them have it. Hydroblast is going to be good in this matchup. Hercule's Recall can be okay, as I mentioned before, but isn't great. Force of Negation is okay. Caracas weirdly has text in this matchup because you get to bounce the Burgi, which is quite nice. This is the version that relies on the graveyard more, so the Leylines are good. These can kill the goblins if they go for that route. Opposition Agent is fine. Thoughtseize is fine. Surgical Extractions are playable. So let's have a look. What do we want to cut? Removal spells. They all come out. You can kill Burgi, but I don't think it's worth trying to do. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the first 5. So put the best 5 in. 1, 2, 3. Thoughtseize, Leyline. And then we want to trim something else for Leyline. The Borrowers are bad here, so we trim these 2. So that gets us another Leyline and a Plague Engineer to hedge for the Goblin plan. And I think we can take out one of our more medium threats. Probably like an Ornithopter and get ourselves a Plague Engineer. I don't think we have the time to play these. Like, Opposition Agent is okay here. It's just okay. Maybe we can drop a Strix out because Strix is slow, even though it's blue. Yeah, let's try like this. We have interaction, but our hand is very slow. I think we keep it. Oh, do we keep this? I think we keep it reluctantly. I'm not convinced this is an amazing matchup. They can just Defense Grid and then just shut us off completely. Obviously, they have to have the Defense Grid. Okay, our opponent's begun the game with 6 cards in hand. I was kind of hoping they'd go a little bit lower, but we'll just go and get an Underground Sea now for the purposes of days. They're not going to be impacting our mana base, so we can go and get the best lands when we can. Our opponent didn't do anything on their first turn, which means their hand is all artifact mana, which means our days are looking very good, so a blue card here would be very nice. That is not a blue card, but it is alright. This gives us a 4/4 to start attacking with soon. And if our opponent goes into a Goblin line, we've got that covered. As long as they don't do a Echo of Eons and spin the wheel first. Chrome Mox. Interesting. So this is some starting mana for our opponent. There's definitely an option to let that resolve rather than counter it, but I think we can counter a business spell here. I don't think our opponent has the mana to do an Overmaster route, where they like make their spell uncounterable and then go for it. Now, if they have lines like diamond and stuff, then that is something they can do. Alright. Let's ninja-thopter. Okay, so we have a blue card now. Question is whether or not I use this blue card to try and find more blue cards. That seems like a weird thing to do, to be honest. I don't want to spend my ponder looking for another blue card that's going to go anyway. I think we just pass with everything up here. We can make a threat with the Plague Engineer, but I think having mana up here might be more useful because we can make one of these which enables all of our ninjas, which would be better than getting a Death Toucher in play. And we might just be able to like swizz our opponent out if they do go for the Goblin route. Right, let's make a rubbish 1/1. Another blue card, then I can use this ponder. Did not find another blue card, so we can't use that ponder. I think we still play this out there. So we get to upgrade this one into a Thopter and then a big boy, right? It's 1 to change it and then 3 to untap this. So we can make another 4/4. So we've got a quite quick clock now. A Rite of Flame. We're going to get a swamp. And this one we'll get an island. We will untap this. And then we will daze this. So this might force them into a lines like diamond. Okay, no. Let's make another 4/4. Changing outcast. That doesn't really change things to me. I think we attack with 2 4/4s. Deadsies. I don't think we need to play anything else here. I think we can just hold up. Give our opponent maximum things to think about. Maximum cards in hand. So it looks like starting mana might be an issue for them. So if we can hit whatever they try and start off mana-wise, that might be the play here. Lotus Petal. Okay, that's going to be tricky. Another Lotus Petal. Okay, we're certainly looking like we're in payoff town that we're trying to hit here. Force of Will this payoff. Overmaster. So they could LED Echo Vions on us. That's a possibility that they have. Okay, so we just got it. Game 3, is there anything I'd like to do differently? I think maximum counter spells and disruption is the way to go. There's an argument for surgical extractions as a turn 1 way of interacting with your opponent. Like if I can nail a... So if they discard a Burning Wish for like the first Echo Vions, I can hit that and change things up quite a bit. Something I might board in the extractions here. Now if they have Leyline, that'll look bad, but if I have Leyline then they can't echo, so I think we'll be in better shape anyway. So this hand is Surgical Extraction potentially early on, and then a Hydroblast. It doesn't really do anything else. Can I keep this? I think we can keep this, but it's not good. Like we can mulligan to Force here and just get completely blown out by Overmaster or Defense Grid. Grim Monolith, sure. Okay, so Prismatic Vista is nice here. What we do this turn is we just hold up the Pyroblast, the Hydroblast, sorry. And then next turn we can ponder. Now if this is a Defense Grid, then we are out of luck. A Grim Monolith, sure. They're stocking up for a future turn by the looks of it. And because I'm not threatening them, they can pass the turn quite a few times by the looks of it. Okay. Now we have this. Crack this. And we're going to get a swamp. Yeah, I think we get the swamp here. And cast a Changing Outcast. And then this can become a Yuriko. And then we can start trying to ponder next turn into things. We can't really use our blue mana because we can't be guaranteed of finding a blue mana right now. So we could have used this to get a blue mana and ponder with, but I think getting a threat on board is going to be more potent. If we find any land next turn, we get to make Yuriko. Bergie. I think this is worth countering. Okay. That's a very good draw for us. I think we ponder first in case we find good things. Any order. A brainstorm. We can set stuff up with that if we want to. I think what we're doing here is attacking and ninjutsuing in this guy. Maybe try hitting a force of will. Blue to delta. Okay, so we have this surge of extraction as interaction, which isn't great. So we can try and hit their Bergie in their draw step, or we can just wait. I think, well, we are waiting. If we try and take something out with an LED line. 5. It's a lot of colourless mana there. Harrenfell. So if we'd have taken out the Bergie, we'd have been pretty good shape there. But what we can do is when they're discarding cards here, we can then rip through their deck and take out the things. So let's have a look. They've got another Bergie, which they can not cast just yet. They have 3 cards in hand and 1 mana floating and 3 off the Grim Monolith if they need it. So they can cast the Grim Monolith. I think what they need to do now is discard some more cards. They discarded a Rite of Flame. So they got lots of defense grids here. So they cast the defense grid. We have to Surge of Extract in response. Because they already have the Harrenfell, I think we probably Surge of Extract the Rite of Flames. Red mana feels like the gate for them at the moment. Okay, so we take these out. And what we got here? So they bored in all the empties. So we were correct on that part. They got 1 more Bergie left in there. They got 2 cards in hand. Sure. So we know their hand, and we know everything else. What are you discarding? So discarded the Similar Spirit Guide. And what do they hit? The Galvanic Relay isn't going to be that big, but they need to use the Lotus Petal for red mana if they want to do it. I did help their Storm with my Surgical. So I think they are probably just play Lotus Petal, cast Galvanic Relay. It's probably the best they have available to them. Which will get them... Where's my Storm counter? That's not on. Okay, they're playing the Shatter Skull. So they can pitch the Lotus Petal rather than Galvanic Relaying this turn, or they can hold the Lotus Petal. But holding the Lotus Petal feels bad when you just get a redraw. Okay, they're playing the Bergie instead. Yeah, so they can play this petal out. Okay, yes, they play the petal out and they get the mana off the petal. And then they play out the Grim Monolith, which gets the mana off of the Bergie, which then taps for Galvanic Relay mana. Yeah, okay. Storm count is 7. Defense Grid, Burning Wish, Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay, so it's just the Burning Wish. And they have another defense grid. So we're not casting spells on their turn. So we need to find a way of dealing with the Burning Wish. We will not have the mana to do any of these things. Can we deal with Yuriko, with Bergie here? I think we cast Brainstorm. That's usually a good step 1. Yikes. Send those 2 back, play out this. Crack this. Underground C. Black. Blue. Cast this guy. We're looking for Hydroblast at the moment. Plague Engineer. Okay, so this is good if they do a Goblin pass the turn pile. Which is kind of what we would like. I think we make this guy. They can block this guy. It's just a 1/3, so I think we have to say go. So we're kind of hoping our opponent empties the Warrens us. But they have Burning Wish. But they can't go super big with it. Depending on what they've got in hand, I guess. Yeah, Storm count is 3. No, sorry, Storm count is 2. Okay, so they haven't emptied the Warrens. So if our opponent makes lots of goblins, we'll be alright. So I'm curious what this Burning Wish is going to be. It might just be something to pad out the storm. Oh, they've got 3 black mana though. into the abyss. Okay, so they're going to go through most of their library here. I think we've lost this game. The surgical play where we didn't hit the Bergie, I think definitely cost us this game because we could have hit the horn. I should have just seen that as one of the payoffs rather than thinking of it as like a mana thing. So that was my bad. I think I made a slight mistake and this is probably going to cost me this game. Which is unfortunate because everything that's happening right now is because of the horn that I could have got rid of. Hopefully our opponent just makes loads and loads of goblins though. They don't have to, they can just get tendrils though. They can do both for the style points. Yeah, that's us done. Right, so that's the end of the league. And we went 2-3. Let's have a look at the deck. So this deck is basically trying to be a synergy deck using Retrofitter's Foundry to sort of fill in the gaps of the sort of unblockable one drop into a cool ninjutsu guy. Now, the problem is these cards are all really, really bad. And the payoff of running these is not great. Like, being able to draw an extra card a turn is nice. Having Ophidians, you know, is decent. Especially this one, which can hit for a big chunk. And this one, which can draw multiple cards if you've got multiple guys who are ninjas. So these payoffs, they're okay. But you're going through these hoops to draw extra cards a turn when something like Expressive Iteration exists in the format, which is just a straight 2 mana draw 2 most of the time. But it digs 3 and you get to keep 2 of them. So it's just an incredibly powerful spell that kind of makes what we're doing, the payoff for it, seem a bit insignificant. The Retrofitters making 4/4s and things is quite nice. It's a nice little backup plan. The Baleful Strix was actually one of the better cards all day, really, in my opinion at least. You know, it roadblocked stuff. It drew me quite a lot of cards. It was just nice. The problem is we're not really drawing into anything exceptional when we are drawing all these extra cards. So essentially what it is when we're against a matchup where we can get one of these into play and connect with it where our opponent doesn't have a board. So we need our opponent to not have a board so we can keep swinging. And we need them to be a slow enough deck that we can do this and then be drawing resources that are going to be relevant. So we did have games where that was the case, like against the Hammer deck where we sort of just did our thing and we just sort of buried them underneath cards because we just had to pick off the odd bit here and there. But the problem is if you look at the top tier of Legacy at the moment, what we're doing here isn't going to do anything to a lot of decks. So like things like Delver are just going to be able to, you know, steamroller past us because they're doing the same sort of thing, except instead of running all of these cards to get this draw engine going, they just pay 2 mana or they sacrifice a land and put their draw spell on top of their library and just go again. And they have a much bigger payoff in terms of Murktide Regent, which can come down the same turn that we're messing around with these things. They can be putting like an 8/8 dragon or something stupid into play or whatever it is. So I'm not really convinced about this deck being a good choice in the meta at the moment. Like, I think the fact that you can run on all basics is nice when there's quite a few decks that can hurt your basics around. Like, there's lots of Elvish Reclaimer decks that can just chain Wasteland you, or Knight of the Reliquary decks, whether that's the sort of Fiend Artisan decks or straight up Green-White Depths or even the Maverick decks. So there's definitely lots of decks that can just do things to us as well that are just more powerful. So we've got these 2 Brazen Borrowers, which, you know, that can deal with a Marit Large token if we draw them. And this can block for 1 turn. But other than that, we're like chumping out like Thopters, which we need a lot of mana to do. So I think the axis that like the top decks are all operating on is just intrinsically more powerful with a lot less air in them. Because we have these cards, and if you kill the guy you ninja in, then you're just kind of stuck with these bad cards. At least Retrofitters is kind of harder for a lot of decks to answer, but not even that much more difficult to answer because people are running Prismatic Ending. We didn't come across that today, but that's the thing that a lot of decks have that can just shut this down. Or what we did see was Pithing Needle off Urza Saga. So that can sort of shut down this angle of attack quite easily, and it's in people's main deck. So like this was a 5/0 deck list that I took. So clearly, if you run hot enough, it works. You know, your curve's decent. If you have days, like we never got to do a day's turn. We're only running 3 days, but we never got to like live the dream of, oh, make a changing outcast, or whatever, turn it into a guy, days the spell you do to counter, like, you know, the classic tempo plays. We never really got to do that. So maybe, you know, we could possibly squeeze in a 4th days so we can get those sorts of plays more often, because once you fall behind with this deck, it's very hard, unless your opponent, you know, because all the things that your opponents are doing these days are applying intense pressure. Like Minsk and Boo, for example, or Murktide Regent, or Goblins, what they can do with smashing things out super quick now. The Natural Order decks, like they have guys that are just bigger than ours anyway, like Fiend Artisan and things, and even Elvish Reclaimer is a 1-drop that outclasses the size of all the creatures in our deck, apart from the 4/4s we make. So it just feels like we're a bit outclassed playing ninjas against everything else in the format at the moment. But, you know, there is definitely people out there who play ninjas, and, you know, clearly someone did well and got a 5-0 with it. And I think maybe if you play the deck more often, you're going to get slightly higher percentage points from knowing all the lines and how the deck interacts with everything that you get from playing experience with the deck. But I think just on a simple intrinsic level, this deck isn't as powerful as many of the other things in Legacy. So I don't know if it's worth dedicating the time to playing ninjas in order to sort of get that level of sort of rubbing shoulders with some of the decks that are just a better deck at the moment. All right. I'd also like to say the sideboard, I think, could be a little bit tighter from what I want here. I don't like the split of these 2 cards. Obviously, if I'd have played the Surgical correct in the last game, I might have been able to come up with a 3/2, so that's definitely on me there. But I don't think the Surgical Extraction is as good as Leyline if you're trying to beat Delver and Reanimator, which are 2 of the best decks at the moment. So I think I probably just want to have more things against the best decks. Caracas, I'm not sure I want to put this card in my deck that needs to cast all these blue-black things. Yes, it's an extra card that you're boarding into. It's a spell slot rather than a land. But I don't know any match. Like, yeah, sure, you can bounce a Grizzlebrand, but the damage is already done at that point, and I don't think it matters. And you can bounce Sighs and Emrys, which again is fine, but you're going to get, if you're doing this every turn, this is a land drop. So in terms of your tempo, you're setting yourself behind. You are a tempo deck. So if you're playing this land that doesn't cast any of your spells, if you play it early to interact with your opponent, it means your game plan is delayed, and a lot of the decks have just got stronger intrinsic game plans of just like drawing loads of cards in 8-cast or whatever. So maybe this is for something else that I've sort of just forgotten about. I guess, you know, it's all right against Death and Taxes, but I don't know what the Caracas is for. I think this could be just a more universally useful Magic the Gathering card right now. Anyway, I think I've spoken about this deck enough. Like, I like what it does. It's quite fun. And this is the sort of deck that I would like to be a good deck in Legacy at the moment. I sort of like these things where you're getting incremental advantage each turn and sort of pushing your, you know, thin margins, but you work for them, but you get rewarded. Whereas now I think Fire Design has meant that you can just play a card and get rewarded a lot more easily than jumping through these hoops, which is sad. Because this deck is a cool deck. I love the synergies in it, and I would love to play like more synergy stuff like this in Legacy. I just don't think it's up to the power level of what a lot of people are doing. But hopefully the people out there who do play ninjas, they can keep chugging away, and maybe something will break in one of the sets and give us something to make this deck a little bit more powerful. All right. Thank you for watching, and if you could please subscribe, like, comment, these will help, especially subscriptions. I need people to subscribe to me. It doesn't cost you a penny, and it really helps me out, and I want to try and hit 1,000 subscribers by New Year's. So if you can find some people who are interested in Legacy, send them my videos. It really helps me out. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching, and good night.